On this short lesson about Parshat Balak, I want to do something unusual. I'll discuss the Vilna Gaon's so-called Gra, Gimel, Reish, Aleph is the abbreviation used for Vilna Gaon, his commentary on this Parsha. Of course, the main commentary of Vilna Gaon to the Torah is called Aderet Eliyahu. Since his name was Eliyahu, that's how he chose to call his commentary. But on various weekly readings, there is no commentary of the Gaon at all. And on the other hand, there are some weekly readings where he has very detailed commentary. And the most well commented Parsha is this one, Parshat Balak. For whatever reason, he wrote a very extensive commentary, and moreover, he didn't write it all as one piece. Rather, he wrote 6 different versions of the commentary. Although not every verse has comments from all 6 versions, rather, some of these versions don't finish and some of them start not from the beginning, but at least pretty much any verse in this Parsha has about 3 or 4 commentaries or so. And I'm going to discuss the first 3 commentaries with regards to the first verse only. And most of the commentary of the Vilna Gaon to the Torah is Kabbalistic. Now today they have editions of Likutim, what's called, when they take from various other places the Vilna Gaon commented something else, but that relates to a specific verse. And this way they were able to publish commentaries to the entire Torah. But as I said, Aderet Eliyahu specifically does not cover all of Torah, but it covers Parshat Balak more than any other Parsha. So the first verse of this Parsha has 10 words. And of course, when we see number 10, a lot of times, at least the mystics, the Kabbalists, immediately have an idea that it has to do with 10 Sfirot. So let me say a few words about that before we go on. Sfirot, according to Vilna Gaon, that's what his student wrote in the Vilna Gaon's commentary on the Zohar called Yahel Or, that Sfirot comes from the word mispar, counting, meaning it's something that's imaginary in a certain sense. Meaning we use it in a sense like vectors are used in mathematics or Descartes' system of coordinates. These are not existent in a certain sense. They're rather used to understand something or to prove something in mathematics. So the same way, Sfirot has to do with our understanding of Hashem's will. And it's all in our mind, meaning Hashem's will is infinite. Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, Ramchal, explains it very well. And the idea is that when we discuss Hashem's will, since it's infinite, we can't really understand it. So we use a certain, parable, you could say, to the parts of His will. And that's what Sfirot are. When we discuss it, when Hashem does, sort of like the names of Hashem. Why does the Bible use many different names of Hashem depending on what Hashem is doing? So the Midrash already discussed it and said, depending on what Hashem does, that's how He's called. So the names of Hashem have to do with His actions and our understanding of them. So the same way, the Sfirot, in fact, the Sfirot are paired up with specific divine names, mystical, various divine names that cannot be erased. So Sfirot, in a sense, is our understanding of what Hashem does in this world. But there are projections of Sfirot in anything, in everything. In the same way as, for instance, there are about 100 or so elements in the periodic table, and everything in the world is some kind of combination of those elements. Yeah, for instance, bronze may have some copper and some other metal that's together and things like that. So everything in the world is just consistent of those different things. Sometimes the elements make up molecules. Water, of course, is H2O. Right, hydrogen and oxygen together, but everything is just those elements in some combination. Sometimes those elements are not made into molecules, but each one is just taken together, like in the case of bronze, 2 different metals that are just together, not combined together in the molecule on the molecular level, but simply are there are molecules of copper and molecules of a different metal that are together in one compound metal. But whatever the case may be, everything is some kind of combination. Our bodies are, of course, a combination of those elements. So the same way in spiritual, everything is a combination of sfirot. So that's why they talk about projections of sfirot to this world. For instance, they say that gold has to do with gvura, and silver has to do with chesed, and things like that. And the 10 sfirot are usually divided into groups of 3, 3, and 1. We find that in a lot of cases. For instance, we find that the plagues, the Egyptian plagues, were also 3, 3, and 1. In a certain sense, they're divided into groups. Rabbi Huda used to give simanim. Right? For instance, Datzach is the first 3 plagues, Dam, Tzefardea, Kinim. So the groups are usually 3, 3, and 1. And that's how the Vilna Gaon splits the first verse in this parsha. The verse says, Vayar Balak ben Tzipor et kol asher asa Yisrael laemori. So the Gra says that the first word Vayar is the one that includes everything. And then there are 3 groups of 3. Balak ben Tzipor, who saw. Vayar means to see. He saw. On 3 levels, by the way. He saw it physically, he saw it with his understanding, and he saw it spiritually. The 3 types of raya. So Vayar, he saw. Who? Balak ben Tzipor, the person. Balak, son of Tzipor. Et kol asher, another 3. Asa Yisrael laemori. So the first Mahdura and the second Mahdura, the first commentary of the Gra and the second to this parsha, are in a sense parallel to each other. The second Mahdura uses the regular terms to explain the Kabbalistic ideas of the first Mahdura. So if you learn just the first Mahdura, you will understand very little. Although there is a commentary of a student, really not direct student of a student of the Gra, Rav Yitzchak Isaac Haver. He wrote a commentary to Aderet Eliyahu, to certain parts, the most mystical Kabbalistic parts. And here he tries to explain. But the main explanation of the first part is the second part. What the Gra does here is he first writes everything on Kabbalistic level, using the terminology of the Mikubalim, and then explains the same thing much more broadly using regular terms. So this is one of the examples for those who are trying to study Kabbalah, especially Kabbalah of the Vilna Gaon, which is very hard to understand usually. This is one of the examples where you could get a glimpse of what he means using regular terms. So the first and the second Mahdura talk about the split of this pasuk, this verse, the Vayar, and the 333 in terms of the 3 worlds. The world of Asiya, the lowest world, and the world of Yetzira, and then the world of Bria. And explains the parallels and what the 3 in each world mean. But I'll go right away to the third Mahdura, which I think is the most revealing of what he understood in this verse. So he uses the system that comes from Sefer Yetzira, one of the mystical books of the most fundamental books of Kabbalah, besides the Zohar. There was something called Sefer Yetzira, a very ancient book. There's discussions about which part of the book was written when, but it's a very, very old book. And it's a very short book. And its system, among others, discusses time, space, and soul, what's called Olam Shana Nefesh. Olam is world, literally. Shana is literally year, meaning time. And Nefesh is the soul. So each one here is split into 3 levels. Of course, the time is past, present, and future. The world, in this case, is what's below us, the land, the avir, the ruach, the air, and what's above us, the skies. And the person is nefesh, ruach, neshama, 3 levels of the soul. There are other levels, but they usually don't have anything to do with our practical lives. The way to see our soul is a kind of being the nefesh, being the lowest level closest to the body, and then it's like a column of souls coming from the sky going into the body. So the lowest part is connected to the body, that's the nefesh. The ruach is the person himself, that's the main part of the person. Nefesh has to do with the qualities of a person. Kind of like a rider riding on the horse. Sometimes the horse is a difficult horse, but if the rider has the power, he can control the horse. So that's how ruach is on top of the nefesh. Ruach is the main part of the individual, and nefesh is closer to the body and has to do with the qualities. And then neshama is kind of in the sky. That's all above, giving us some nitzutzot, some sparks of spirituality and connecting us to godliness, but really with neshama we have some contact, but when a person, for instance, is very sinful, he just loses the connection. That's a kind of karet, a kind of spiritual cutoff. On batteries, a lot of devices can still work, but if you don't connect it to the electricity on more or less constantly or often enough, then eventually the batteries die out. That's the kind of idea of a person who's cut off, so his neshama doesn't really have much contact with him. So that's the three levels of the soul that have to do with three levels in the world, right? Nefesh is below us, the ruach is where the ruach is in the world, where the spirit is in the world is where the wind, ruach also means wind or spirit. So ruach level of the neshama is the actual person who is in the middle. That's where we're active. And neshama is like in the sky. And in terms of time, they correspond like this. The past time is neshama. That doesn't change much. It just gives us some ideas and connects us. And the nefesh is the future. That's what we work on. And the real time where everything is happening, that's keneged the ruach. That's the achshav, the time right now, the present tense. The present is the ruach. Like I said, the middle is always the most important. We live in this world between the sky and the earth. We live in the present tense. The future is not ours yet. We work on it. And the past gives us some knowledge and some connection, but it already passed. It's the present that counts the most, and it's the ruach that's the main part of an individual, and it's the avir, the ruach in the earth is where our activity is. So this is all based on the Gra's Kabala in various places and his explanations in various places. He has, by the way, a commentary to Sefer Yetzira. So here, the Gra says this pasuk also is divided exactly the same way. So first it's the word vayar, which includes all of these, connects all of these three levels together. Balak ben Tzipor is the soul, the person. Balak ben Tzipor, three levels. And et kol asher is the world. Asa Israel Amori is the time. Israel did to Amorites. And of course, I summarize something that really needs a much greater explanation, but I just wanted to give a taste for those who are not necessarily knowledgeable in Kabbalah, and very few people are learning Kabbalah, and especially Kabbalah of the Vilna Gaon, just to give some ideas on this specific parsha, because as I said, for whatever reason, the Vilna Gaon wrote a very complex and multi-level commentary to this parsha. Another two parshot where he has two mahduras, two levels of understanding, are the last two parshot of the Torah. In general, to Sefer Dvarim, he has much more commentary than to others. There are some other places where part of the parsha is explained on two different levels, but the more extending explanation, a large part of his commentary to Sefer Dvarim is to the last two parshot, Ha'azinu and Mizot HaBracha, where he has first and second Mahdura. And on this I'm going to end for today, and if you like this video, please press like.